right, thank you everyone for hanging in there. I know this is the last presentation of the day and our eyes are glazed over. We're all ready to crack some French wine. So we'll get through this pretty quickly. I've met most people here. I recognize quite a few people. This is my second time attending LiDAR for Drone. I'm thankful to be here. Those that don't know me, my name's Nathan. I work for Frontier Precision and Frontier Precision Unmanned, as you can see here. We are YellowScan's top distributor in the United States. And we've been a distributor now for, I think, 5, maybe 6 years. And I'm happy to say the very first mapper that I ever sold 5 years ago is still out there, it's still flying, and still has hundreds of flights. Unfortunately, he says. But it's a testament to the YellowScan build quality. So we heard a lot of different use cases that YellowScan's being utilized in the field, and I'm focusing on one that's maybe slightly different than the rest. So I'm going to focus on an emergency management response using LiDAR and also photogrammetry. So before I get into that, I'm going to focus on the Alaska Department of Transportation, and I just wanted to kind of build into the story, to see how we got there first. So we began with the Alaska Department of Transportation. They manage roads in the U.S. Years and years ago, we approached them to be their drone provider, to procure them hardware and software and expertise and things of that nature. And we developed this relationship over time. So we've been selling them drones, we've been providing training and support for a number of years for the Department of Transportation. And we've really become their kind of trusted advisor when it comes to new technology and new solutions. So that's the genesis of our relationship with the Department of Transportation. And we always talk about, at least in sales, we talk about finding a champion in a company that can really tout our good graces and say how wonderful we are and bring that trust into an organization. So I wanted to shout out to these two guys because they're pretty rad. Pat Dreyer is a geohazard specialist. He specializes in avalanche mitigation, which in Alaska, if you're familiar, has a lot of avalanches, a lot of snow. And then Ryan Marlowe, who pushes the limits. He's a UAS coordinator for the Department of Transportation, and basically his job is to test different equipment in harsh environments like Alaska and see where it'll work and see where it fails. And this is a really interesting picture. For those of you that are familiar, this is a Skydio S2 Plus, a little Skydio drone. And Skydio actually contacted Alaska and said, please stop flying our drones in -20. They're gonna fall out of the sky, but they keep doing it anyways. And that's their job really, or Ryan's job, is to figure out where drones work in Alaska and these harsh environments and where they don't, and then he recommends it throughout the state. So before we jump into the YellowScan portion of this, I just wanted to show a really cool thing. We've been talking about docks and autonomous drones in a box, and this is really where our adventure began with the Department of Transportation in Alaska. So they have these avalanche corridors that you can kind of see here. Every year, unfortunately, these huge avalanches come down and bury the highway. So what they've done is they try to do avalanche mitigation monitoring. So they'll do snow load analysis, and when the snow gets too deep, they'll set off charges, create avalanches for safety, as opposed to really, really big avalanches coming down and burying the highway. So they've been looking for years now better ways to do this. They do it by helicopter, they do it by guys on the ground, they do it by backcountry skiers, and so they've been really looking for a new technology to help them mitigate avalanches throughout these avalanche corridors. So they came to us, our trusted drone provider, Frontier, and they said, here's our situation. What would you recommend? What would we use to monitor these corridors? So we recommended a drone in a box. You can kind of see it here. It's a small picture. But this basically just plugs into the side of the road. They ran power and Wi-Fi. Well, they run off Starlink because they're in the middle of nowhere up there. But basically, they're connected to the internet, they have power, and this box just sits on the side of the road, and it flies these corridors once every day or once every 2 days. And then in the comfort of their office, they download the data and they do snowpack analysis. And they see when they need to set off these charges. So this is just a quick drone mission that we programmed for them. And they use this to, like I said, do snowpack analysis and avalanche mitigation. So leading into some of the benefits, and before we jump into the YellowScan side of this, you can see some of the information that we get. We get these hill shades and digital elevation models, and they use that from springtime, so they have open ground conditions to when the snow starts to pack on, and they can do snowpack analysis. So this kind of leads me into the next part of this. We're collaborating with the DOT. We make recommendations on equipment and things of that nature. And they trust us because of our years of this partnership. So they're budgeting for new sensors, new equipment, and we're recommending, obviously, YellowScan LiDAR and wide area photogrammetry, so something like a Quantum Systems Pro that we flew today. So as this was happening, and we meet with them once a year to go over their budgeting requirements and things like that, the Mendenhall Glacier flood event occurred. So does anyone know what the Mendenhall Glacier is? Should I explain? Okay, so it's a very large, iconic glacier in Juneau, Alaska. And they had kind of unseasonably warm temperatures. So the glacier itself was running off a lot. There was a lot of runoff, but they also had a ton of rain. So the glacial lake swelled, and that runs into town, the town of Juneau. And all of a sudden, the rivers kind of burst open, and this is running through the town. It's actually taking out some houses, and we'll have some cool pictures of this later on. So obviously they called us, their trusted drone provider, and they said, okay, this is what we have going on. We have a flood event that's happening right now, and we need to be able to very, very quickly map the entire city using drones, but also using LiDAR. So they came to us and they said, what should we use to map as quickly as possible? And the reason it needed to be as quickly as possible, this is a very big tourist area. So there's helicopters flying over the glacier, tourists want to see it. There's also the county and the state are flying helicopters to try to monitor this disaster in real time. So it's a very congested airspace. So basically, this is a no-fly zone area because and maybe I have it in the next, let's see here. A no-fly zone area because the town is so small. The airport covers the entire area as a no-fly zone. So basically, the county said, okay, if we need to collect this data, we need to shut down all air traffic. That means helicopters coming and going, planes coming and going, and we can only do that for a very, very short period of time. So we need to collect this data as quickly as possible. So we've all been here for 2 days now. What's the most capable scanner that YellowScan makes? The YellowScan Voyager, right? So we proposed using the YellowScan Voyager because A, we can fly very high, and we can fly very fast, and we can collect that data quickly. And then we also used a Quantum Systems Trinity Pro right here, which we got to see flying today. Because it can fly for a very long period of time, it also flies very fast. So we recommended using these two pieces of technology to cover this area as quickly as possible. And this is kind of what it looks like. So the town itself is right around here. The glacier's up here. So basically the city wanted information, continuous information from the glacier all the way through town, all the way to the sea. And this is the airport that I was talking about, which just makes it a no-fly zone. So it's pretty close to the area that we needed to cover. Let's see here. So as I said, there was a temporary flight restriction there. So obviously nobody could fly except for us, which is why we chose the two fastest technologies to cover this area. And I'll tell an interesting story. So we're from all around the world here, but everyone has an aviation authority, right? Someone that makes laws for the sky. So ours is called the Federal Aviation Administration, or the FAA. So for those of you that are familiar with drones, every once in a while you need to do a compass calibration, right? And we call it doing the drone dance, where you spin in a circle, twist the drone, spin in another circle, right? Everyone's done that. So our guys here, Sean and Wyatt, they find a big open parking lot. And they have this Quantum Systems Trinity Pro. It's got about a 6-foot wingspan. And they're spinning around doing the drone dance. And a couple guys come out and say, hey, what are you guys doing in our parking lot? And you know, the quick kind of young answer, they said, hey, who are you? And they said, you know, we're the FAA. Let's see your paperwork, let's see your license, let's see your registration number. So if you see here, this is the Flight Standard District Office for the FAA. So it's kind of a funny story because they were just looking for a parking lot to spin around, do a compass calibration. It happened to be the FAA office. So it's kind of a funny story, right? So good thing we had all of our paperwork in order, and it was awesome. They supported us. We actually ended up flying from their parking lot. I do think I have a quick video here. So let's play this, and this kind of gives a synopsis of what we were doing with the Alaska Department of Transportation and the two different pieces of gear that we used for it.
Under authority of the State Disaster Declaration for the Juneau Glacial Outburst Flood Disaster in August 2023, and at the request and coordination with the City and Borough of Juneau, the Department of Transportation and Public Facilities was tasked with collecting LiDAR mapping and updated aerial imagery of the Mendenhall River and Mendenhall Lake using drones to support disaster response, damage assessment, and recovery. A drone-amplified Alta-X aircraft and Frontier Precision's YellowScan Voyager LiDAR was used for this project. A Trinity Pro vertical takeoff and landing drone operated by Frontier Precision was used to collect updated aerial imagery. The Mendenhall Glacier is a popular tourism destination and therefore results in high-volume air traffic occurring along the Mendenhall River and Mendenhall Lake. In coordination with the FAA, local commercial aviation, and air traffic control, the Department of Transportation and Public Facilities assessed traffic patterns to find a solution for airspace to safely operate in conjunction with commercial aviation. The Alta-X and YellowScan Voyager was able to collect the data at a higher resolution with reduced flight times, resulting in fewer airspace restrictions. This increased the safety for our drone pilots as well as minimized disruptions to commercial aviation. With this configuration, we were able to reduce the necessary flight times from multiple days to hours.
Yes, that was a quick video I'll explain real quick, but the original plan as Pat, that was the guy that I introduced at the beginning, what he was saying was the equipment that they had currently, M300s, P1 cameras, things like that, they were budgeting for somewhere between 4 to 5 days of shutting down air traffic, which, as you know, would be near impossible to do. They have a inbound and outbound flights going to the airport there, and also Juneau is a very large tourist attraction town, so it brings in money and cash flow to that area. So their original plan was 4 to 5 days of shutting down or having a temporary no-fly zone during certain parts of the day, and they were able to have that done in about a half a day. It took about 6 hours to fly the entire thing with a Quantum Systems Trinity Pro and a YellowScan Voyager, as opposed to 4 to 5 days. These are some of the deliverables here. So as you can see, there's some dramatic elevation changes in Alaska. And basically what they were looking at, the county was looking at, they're using these LiDAR-derived elevation models to see and model if the water went up 1 feet or 5 feet or 10 feet, where that would splash over into the community. And they made some decisions based off that. So this is pretty much the deliverables there. It was about 3,000 acres, which is a pretty sizable area. And like I said, the Voyager and the Quantum Systems Pro covered it in about 6 hours combined, the two systems combined. So kind of looking back, and this is a pretty interesting thing. So as I said, Alaska DOT kind of trusts us with the recommendations we make for equipment, for software, and for hardware. And based off this response and being able to utilize the YellowScan Voyager, they're now about to procure one. The PO comes in July 1st, so that's a big win for us. It also just shows that some of these higher level agencies like DOTs and government level agencies are looking at this equipment and can use this equipment for some pretty cool projects. So that's something that we've learned along the way. Basically, let's see here. Yep, that's what we learned along the way. And reflecting back on this, especially Frontier, being able to be nimble on our feet and have access to different technologies and work hand in hand with YellowScan from an R&D perspective, but also from a distribution perspective, having this equipment on hand has really helped us demo the equipment and use it in capacities like this. So thank you very much, and I can take any questions at this time.